I've been doing this a long time. I really kind of come to a place where we understand where we're going with it and what we're trying to do. And that is build the best brand possible while putting a good message out there. Purpose-driven messages that are going to help others and paying homage to our country, to every hardworking American that is busting their ass every day.
Welcome to the Spencer Whiteout podcast. Rated R.
You have some criminal charges with you, bro. Guess like we're avoiding the shark. We'll call it leather fetish, dude.
No, great turbo neck guy.
I'll give you a kiss. You give me your number.
Got checked out a ton, dude. Tell me you felt it.
We're Americans. We're the ones that are descendants from the 1776 musket-bearing motherfuckers.
Welcome back to the Spencer Whiteout podcast. This is episode number 37. Let's dive in. So today's guest is Johnny McNerney, the founder of brand Ruthless Americans, a brand built for hardworking Americans. Let's start with 1440 concept. Tell us about that, Johnny.
All right, man. Thank you for having me. So if you look at my social media handles, it says Johnny Ruthless 1440. And one of the reasons for that is obviously the name of the company is Ruthless Americans. It's a ruthless dedication to what you love. 1440 stands for 1,440 minutes in the day. My idea, my concept with that is, what do you do with your day? You know, how much can you get out of it? Doesn't mean you need to be going 110% all day, every day, but just, are you doing the best you can every day?
Yeah, it's good. Now tell me about your upbringing, where you grew up, and how that was for you.
Grew up in Bell Gardens, went to school there, spent time in Paramount and Southgate. You know, interesting background, man. Came from a very diverse background, heavily Hispanic community. You know, grew up in that area all the way till I was about 17 years old, you know.
And what about your relationship with your parents?
I come from divorced homes, you know, grew up with my mom and my stepdad. My stepdad raised me since I was about 2. I saw my birth dad on the weekends, and he was the one that lived in Paramount. But my stepdad was pretty much the one that raised me, along with my mom, of course. And so volatile houses, it can, a lot of things happen from that, you know, and so the experience can be a little different, which I think is one of the reasons why, for me, as I've kind of grown in this journey, talking about save our children and protecting the kids and stuff like that, is because I do come from broken homes. I do come from abusive homes. So for me, as I've gone on this journey, I think part of that is trying to help other kids and keep them safe.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. So tell me about some of the best and worst jobs that you've had over the years.
you know, for me, I've been working since I was young. And when I say young, I mean like teenage young. Like back in the day when there were no rules about how old you had to be to work a job or whatever it was. I mean, we come from very poor communities. So dad was working 2 jobs to pay the bills. Machinery, he was a taxi driver. He did everything he could to put food on the table. So there'd be times he'd come home from, you know, working at the factory or one of the machine work jobs, and we'd be putting spring parts together with him. Or we were digging ditches. I've done everything, man, from construction, plumbing, warehouse work. As I got older, I worked for LA Fitness for a little bit doing sales and personal training in my 20s. I actually spent a little bit of time in Hollywood doing background work and extra work and stuff like that. That was kind of fun. I was like 18 to 21. I got into the nightclub bar industry when I was 22. I absolutely love it. I've always loved it. Yeah, I've worked a ton of jobs, man, over the years.
And how old are you now?
45.
Gotcha. Tell me about cleaning up human and animal crap.
Well, yeah, I had a friend who worked for a company, and this was before like people actually picked up their own dog poop. Like you go around and you'd pick up dog poop in the city, and like there was companies that hired you for this. And at the time, like needed a job, needed to make a couple bucks. I was like, okay.
Did they pay well?
No, they did not pay well at all. Human feces, well, that part of that comes from being in the service industry, the nightclub industry, and you'd be amazed how many people can't get to a trash can or just...
You mean a toilet?
Either.
Either.
Yeah, man. I mean, you'd be amazed, man. People get a few too many drinks in them and their bodies just quit. You know?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing too, man, is you got to think about it. Like when you're kind of figuring out life, especially if you're in your 20s, you're trying to figure out what you want to do, where you're going to go. And in between that, you've got to grab a job here, grab a job there to pay the bills. You know I was very lucky because I worked for a couple different construction companies over the years. I worked for a company called Stewart Designs. We got to do nightclub and restaurant remodels. That was one of the really cool things I got to do. I got to go in and be a part of the team that went in there. We'd do all the demo, build the place back up, turn it into a new restaurant, new bar, whatever it was, or you go in and do remodel work for the place. I worked with a team of guys that just had amazing talent, man, from carpenters to designers. We were the handyman guys on the job site. We were banging a hammer every day and doing demo work for them. They come in and just do this beautiful bar top. You know, we got to do some of that work with them. And it's cool because you go back to those restaurants after you finish the job and you get to see the work that you did.
Yeah,
You know?
that's awesome.
Yeah. I always say, do your best to do what you love. You know, I've got friends that are in the restaurant and nightclub industry that have 2 degrees who are still in the industry because 1, they make more money, 2, they love the business. If you can make it possible to do whatever you love for work, then you're really not working. You know, that's the way I look at it. Because you look forward to going to that place.
True.
You know, even if you got to take the job to pay the bills, that's your 40-hour week. You've still got an extra 20, 25 hours a week that you can dedicate to yourself or to your brand or something that you're trying to build. I think that's what entrepreneurship is all about.
Yeah, exactly. And you're doing that with your brand. You're working
Absolutely,
all kinds
man.
of jobs, and then you come home and then you work on Ruthless Americans.
Yeah, and that's a great example right there, is because at the end of the day, you still got to pay the bills. You know, I've heard people say before, oh, well, you've got to go 110% and leave this all behind. Well, not when you got to put food on the table, man. There's a smart way to go about it. I call it calculated risk. And you go, okay, well, how much can I risk here and how much can I risk here? I still want to create these brands and these projects and I want to do these things. How do I make this all work? Well, if I quit this over here, how in the hell am I going to pay for this over here? You know, I still got my tool bag in the truck right now. I've got a couple small jobs I'm doing this week. The other thing is, too, is like humble yourself enough to realize that we still got to pay the bills. And if that means banging a hammer one day and selling shirts another, awesome. I'll do it. I have no problem with that. Slanging drinks on the weekends, wonderful. I'll take it. You know, there's ample opportunities out there, man. As you're going through life and you get a little bit older, yeah, your body hurts a little bit more. The key is never stop moving, never stop working out. You know, you don't have to be some massive meathead or anything like that, but at least spend some time in the gym or at least go for a walk or a run. My son is 8. I do everything I can to lead by example for him. And some days my body works, some days it doesn't. You know, some days it hurts more than other days, but I do my best to be out there with him every day. I mean, I take him on hikes with me. Cool thing is, years ago, I used to do a bunch of 5Ks. And in my closet was a bunch of medals hanging. And he was like, Daddy, what are those? And I was like, you know, Daddy used to do these 5K things. And I started explaining it to him. He's like, I want to do that. And I was like, oh, all right. And I was like, if you want to do it, dude, we'll do it. And so we've started on this journey together where now I'm taking him up and we're doing little 5Ks, take him up to the mountains here and we'll go for a hike or whatever. And he loves it, man. But I wouldn't have even thought about adding that back into my workout program if it wasn't for him making mention of it.
Yeah,
You know?
that's really cool that you guys get to do that together.
Yeah.
So talk to me about fights, right? And you say no one wins in a fight.
No one wins in a fight.
Tell me about that.
Most of the time, fights come from stupidity. And it's either 2 guys have had too much to drink or it's always a girl involved. The more you can de-escalate things, the better with conversation and just walking someone out the door. You know, I think nowadays society's too hyped up on anger and rage and wild pain that's out there, man.
Outrage has become a hobby.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy to me because, you know, us old school guys, man, like you don't fight unless you have to fight, dude. Just keep the peace. Now, the rules, I think, were a little different back then, too. There was a lot more respect. 2 men went hand to hand. At the end of it, you stood up and you shook each other's hands. You know, that's the old school way of doing things. The more you can keep the peace, the better. You know, and if somebody is angry at somebody, usually there's something internal that they're dealing with. That's one of the biggest things, is getting down to what is going on in you as to why you're so angry in this situation right now, which really, if you step back and look at it, is a very minuscule situation. and you are so hyped up and you're so angry and you're mad about this guy did that. Okay, what's really going on inside? Now, I can't pull you aside and have a therapy session with you right here and now, but I'll tell you what, man, most of the time, if you can just have a conversation with someone, you can usually de-escalate it pretty easily.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about run-ins with the authorities and the law, and you had some of these during your younger years.
We grew up in rough neighborhoods where there's drug dealers on the corners, there's gangs on every side of you. You're going to have run-ins with the law. And what I learned over the years is that never ends well. For me, I have the utmost respect for our law enforcement. I got some great friends that are in law enforcement and our military. And I'll tell you what, man, like it's better to be on the good side of the law than it is the bad side of the law. And when you're a young teenage kid, I mean, honestly, you don't really know different, you know, especially if you're growing up in these neighborhoods where that's all you see and that's all you know. Nobody's teaching you any different. I think once you get out of those environments and you realize, oh, hey, this isn't a good path of life, you know, then you go, all right, I understand how the world works. And I've been very blessed to have great friends that are in law enforcement and have conversations with them. And over the years, just watched what they do to protect our cities and protect our country. They're not given enough respect. There needs to be more respect for our law enforcement. Without them, there'd be chaos. We've seen it over the last few years, I guess, with defunding the police and let people run amok and do what they want. You know, respect the law. Number two, respect the people that are protecting you each and every day. They've still got families to go home to as well, you know, and these guys put their lives on the line every single day. Mm-hmm. You know, that's something that I don't think people fully take into account. You know, they don't think about, oh, that's another human being across from me, and he's just trying to do his job. Well, if you're not doing anything wrong, for the most part, they're not going to bother you. Nobody's perfect. I mean, there's bad apples in every aspect of life, man. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, we love our law enforcement guys. In fact, on the website, we have a law enforcement collection.
Now, talk to me about mentors that you've had over the years.
I've had a lot of good people in my life, man. I've been very fortunate. You know, a mentor can be anybody that is guiding you in the right direction, whether that's someone you work for or a friend of yours. We talked a little bit earlier about the differences between bosses and leaders. Technically, everybody has a boss when they go to work, right? But a lot of those bosses can be leaders, and they can actually show you a different path. They're like, hey, man, stop screwing up over here. I've got a good thing for you over here. And a lot of times, I think in our younger years, especially as men, we're too damn dumb and too damn stubborn. We don't listen until the cards start falling. Yeah. And we go, oh, okay. You know, what are you doing with your life, man? Like, you got these great things starting to go for you, but you're over here partying and running amok every day. Like, where are you going with your life? But it makes you look at the perspective and go, hey, you're right. Like, what am I doing with my life? Life is a journey. And I think a lot of times you got to go through these things in order to become who you are. As far as mentor-wise, take little pieces from different people in your life. Keep your circle small. Do your best to evaluate who really is around you for the right reasons. I mean, in my 20s, I was working multiple fun jobs between nightclubs and restaurants and the entertainment business a little bit. And I had 15, 20 people around me sometimes. I loved it. We had fun.
But were they real friends?
Were they real friends? Where are they now? You know, that's the whole thing. And this is something for guys especially. I think real men, like as friends, we don't have to talk to each other all the time. I've got friends that I talk to once a year, once every couple years. But if something went down, I could call them and they'd be here in 2 seconds. Yeah. Those are true friends. Now, that takes years of experience and learning. These guys were just here because we were making money and having a good time and drinking beers. And
it's like the prodigal son story. You know, when he didn't have any money left, it's like all those friends disappeared.
Absolutely, man. And you see it all the time. Who's going to really be with you or be there for you when the chips are down?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and I got to give a shout out to my buddy Ray, because I was stranded up in Ridgecrest at one point. I called him up and he was able to drive 3 hours out and come get me just with no notice. Yeah. And he made it happen. And I was like, that's a true friend right there.
Absolutely.
You know,
and building that friendship with them and that camaraderie, knowing that you'll be there for each other. It's cool, man, because I feel like where I'm at in life, I've got a good group of guys around me, and I am good with that. I don't need 50 people in my life. And especially if you're on a journey and you've got goals and you've got focus that you're trying to get to, man, you can't be distracted. You just can't. When you are focused on certain goals, man, and you have 3 hours to work on this or 3 hours to watch a game, I'm going to spend 3 hours working on this. You
got to make sacrifices.
You do.
To make your dreams happen.
Absolutely.
No one's going to do it for you.
No.
So,
no, man.
Something that you said earlier about bosses and leaders, I heard a great quote I wanted to mention, which was the boss has the title, but the leader has the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a good one.
I think the other thing is you don't need to be recognized as a leader. A leader knows who they are and his team knows who he is. You know, you have a world full of bosses, and then you've got this small pocket of leaders that are men that go out there every single day and bust their ass to pay the bills. Those are our real leaders. You know, a boss who sits there and chews everybody's ass out because corporate monsters are telling them I've got to meet this quota and that quota. Those are bosses. You know,
Yeah.
Now I was very fortunate when I was young and I was working in the warehouses. I remember I had two guys that I worked for, two amazing guys, man. I'd go to hell and high water for these guys because of the way they treated us. Because my boss, in quotations there, he would come out on the floor, he'd jump in a forklift and he'd drive around and load docks and do whatever needed to be done to get the job done. That's leadership. So that word boss can be in there, but there has to be leadership behind it.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
If my guys have to go take the trash out, well, I'm willing to take the trash out too.
Yeah.
If you say, oh, that's not my job, I don't do that. Well, I don't want you on my team, you know, because we're all a team here.
Yeah. The second you say that's not my job, you lose.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the other thing about role models is that no one person is going to be the perfect role model. And so really what you want to do is just observe the different traits from a few different people in that close circle, like you were saying.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
kind of build a hybrid for yourself and how you want to live.
Well, yeah. And I mean, we're all different, man. So let me pull some of this and let me pull some of that. We're all coming from something and we're all learning from each other. And as long as you take that in a positive direction, you can do amazing things, man. You being a skateboard guy, you clearly know who Rob Diedrich is.
Rob Deerdeck.
Deerdeck, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know if you've seen his podcast lately.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And
yeah. Build with Rob, is that what it's called?
Man.
Yeah.
And the info he's putting out there. But listen to what he says, man. Because he even talks about just 10 years ago, he's like, dude, I was creating all these things. He's like, but I had no idea about a budget and this and that. So he started learning from other guys. So he was smart enough to say, hey, I'm the skateboard kid. I'm building these brands, Ridiculousness and Rob and Big and all these other shows. And, you know, the thing is, he was learning like, hey, I need to take from this person and that person and add that to my resume, and I can build my repertoire from here. You know, and look at how successful he is now. I mean, the guy's going to end up being a billionaire at some point.
Yeah, he's legit. I loved watching his shows growing up.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about where you're at with your faith. It says work in progress here, but aren't we all, right?
Well, yeah, man. I talk to God every day. I put my prayers out there every day, but I'm also still a student. I'm doing my best to learn. I created the Just Pray collection because of that. And it was a lot of turmoil and tribulations I was going through. You know, it's been, in fairness, a rough 10 years of getting through things. And I was sitting there doing my prayers and God hit me with this. And I was like, oh, okay, man. Like, if that's what you want me to do, if that's my way of putting it out there for you, then cool. That's my message for you. There's guys, man, that can quote Bible scripts all day long. And I'm just like dumbfounded by how much knowledge they have, you know, and I try and absorb that, but that's not me. My thing is I wear it on my chest like Superman's S, you know. I go, I'm going to put this out there. I'm doing my best to put the word out there for you as well as I can.
And put the truth out there, ultimately.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
You know, so as far as faith, man, I mean, we go to Foothill Christian right here down the street, but I'll tell you right now, you're not going to catch me in church every Sunday, you know, but you'll catch me listening to my sermons probably once a day or every other day doing my devotional, whatever it is. That's my way of living that God, faith, Christian life, you know. Now, you're going to be judged for that by certain people. They're going to say, well, hey, man, you're supposed to be in church every Sunday. Well, that's not me.
And the church isn't just a building. It's also the community of believers you surround yourself with.
And that's what I try to explain to people. And whatever I can do to be the best role model, not only for my kids, but for the people around me, that's what I'm going to do. and I'm not going to claim to know it all. Oh, I'll give you this verse and that verse. I can give you a few here and there. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm doing my best to put a good message out there.
Yeah. So that's good, man. I respect that. So let's talk about starting Ruthless Americans.
It was a concept that a friend and I had a conversation about. He's in the Marines. And when he would come home, he'd always bring me like a shirt and a challenge coin. I've been very blessed over the years to get a lot of really cool challenge coins from military personnel, law enforcement, and stuff like that.
What's a challenge coin?
So a challenge coin started as something between men in different militaries and law enforcement, where it's a coin of either your platoon or your district or whoever you work for. So each unit has a number, and so they would make their own challenge coins. And it was almost like a drinking thing where you went to the bar, and if you didn't have your challenge coin with you, then you bought everybody beers. Now, mind you, that's a short end of it, just so everybody knows there's much more that goes into it between these guys. On the more serious side, guys that have gone to combat, have done different things where you go, hey man, this is my platoon over here, this is my platoon over here. Hey, let's trade coins, as a sign of respect for each other. And so back in the day, it was not normal for a civilian to get one of those. So to me, it was a big honor getting something like that. And there was a conversation we had, and we're talking about antics and the things that we do, and the word ruthless came up, and then I was like, man, I really want to create something cool, some kind of shirt for you. And he's like, well, you're the creative one, do something with it. Literally started that as a sentence, and no joke, took a bar napkin and started drawing some stuff out. And I was like, I don't know, let me see what. The worst possible designs you had ever seen. rough stuff, man. And I started building it. I've always loved creating things and concepts and ideas and stuff. And I started with 2 shirts, and we worked on it from there. And then over the years, it started to develop. The reason we started with Ruthless Cowboys was because we'd had our local rodeo here. We had kind of built this American Pride Ruthless Cowboys concept. And I was like, I'm going to try and put this together and see if I can actually do something with it. And we did. We ended up doing the rodeos, and then we started expanding out from there, where we did multiple rodeos, and then we were doing country concerts, and we were doing different venues and these things over the years. It just kind of flourished from there. The concept was always to turn it into Ruthless Americans. Again, ruthless meaning a dedication to what you love, a ruthless dedication to what you love. So people have a negative connotation with the word ruthless, and they go, oh, that's horrible, bad things. And I'm like, no. There's another aspect to it. So for me, that's what I've always built it off of. And from there, we just started creating designs and concepts, and we traveled Arizona, Colorado, Minnesota. We did a lot of cool stuff back in the day, man. I've been on this journey since 2008, and people, oh, that's a long time. It was a hobby, man. And I didn't start taking it serious till about maybe 8-9 years ago, where I was like, okay, what am I doing with this? Where are we going with it? And from there was where I started understanding, if you're going to build something, what are you building it for?
Yeah. So what made you want to continue going with it?
1, I believed in it. 2, I felt like I was starting to get on this path of okay, maybe this is part of my journey of giving back to my community somehow, some way. Because with the business, we were able to do a lot of cool things, whether it be fundraisers, charity events, anything like that. Kind of finding that place of okay, who do we want to help and what do we want to do? And then I realized, oh, well, with my business, I can do these things. It's another way for me to get the word out there. And so we started with the breast cancer foundations, and then just been expanding from there, man.
Yeah, and bringing awareness to needs of the country, including fighting cancer, human trafficking, showing love for the first responders, law enforcement, military, along with just all the other hardworking blue-collar Americans, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of the purpose behind it.
Absolutely. And have a little fun in between there. I mean, we've got our veterans collection, we've got our military collection, our first responders. The cancer collection, I actually expanded, which represents anyone that's dealing with cancer of any kind. We added on to that last year with the Ruthless Warriors Project. And the reason for that was I have some friends that work for a children's hospital, and they were telling me about it. They work in the actual cancer wards with the kids, and they were working with them during the shutdown. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And so hearing these stories of these kids that are there every day, in these hospital beds who have nowhere to go. They got to stay there. We added that to the collection because I was like, hey, that's kind of important for people to know about. And just, even if it's just raising awareness for them. That was one of the reasons, when you came out to Montana's for the toy drive, that was a big part of it, was donating a lot of that to Children's Hospital for every child there, number one, but also especially for the kids in the cancer units and making sure that they had a great Christmas. The more awareness we can bring to it, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so talk about Montana's. That's where we met at the toy drive. That was pretty awesome. Just really cool to see what you'd built over there. So yeah, give us a little history lesson on that.
Yeah, man. I've been with Montana's for 20 years now. We have been very blessed to have an amazing country western nightclub. We've had some great artists in there over the years. Everyone from Chris Ledoux to Brad Paisley to many others that played there. And it was Western Connection before that. And technically, I guess it's been in business for about 35 years. And you got a good feel of it when you went there for the toy drive. Like, it's a big family, man. Everybody comes in, good drinks, good dancing, good music. Everybody has a great time. And it's cool, man, because you see the different generations coming in because we've been around for so long. So, like, I've literally seen grandparents come in with grandkids and everyone from 21 to 75 coming in having a good time. I really do believe it's a family place. It's one of those places, man, where you can come in, someone's sitting at a table, they'll be like, hey, man, I got an extra seat. You want to come sit down with us? And people just start having conversations and enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, you leave your ego at the door, right?
Yes. Yeah, man.
That's a big part of it.
Yes, please leave your egos at the door. This is not Yellowstone. This is not Hollywood. This is not L.A. Like I said, I've done clubs in L.A. I've done clubs in Hollywood. And listen, when you come here, everybody's equal. We're all the same. Okay, so just be respectful. I was very fortunate, man. When I came into this business, I'll tell you this. Back in the day, it was button-ups, cowboy hats. The ladies wore dresses. There was no T-shirts. There was no shorts. It was a very different style back then. The old school guys taught you, and I think this needs to come back into society anyways. The yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, please and thank you. Open a door for a lady. If the lady doesn't like it, that's fine. But most ladies
That's her problem.
That's her problem, man. To this day, opening a door for a lady is respectful. Ladies first, men second. I don't think as a whole we've come too far away from it, but I do believe we've gotten a little too loose with where respect was and where it is now. If I go anywhere, man, I don't care if it's the grocery store, the gas station, whatever it is, it's a please and thank you. Every person should either have to work in the service industry for a month. They should have to work in some kind of warehouse work or blue collar work, whatever it is, to truly understand the grind of working, because then you'll have a better appreciation for what these people do. Because at the end of the day, if I got to take out the trash, I'm going to take out the trash. We've got this whole idea of I'm up here, so I don't need to do this. You go work in a restaurant for a month and let me know how differently you're going to treat your waitress the next time you come in. You're in the industry too, dude.
Yeah. It just reminds me of directing Space Waves, and we had such a small crew, and so it was there was no luxury of I'm the director, I'm the top dog. It's no, where everyone is, even the actors are helping move crates in and out, and
Absolutely.
it's all hands on deck, and that's how you be a real leader, and that's how you have true teamwork and real camaraderie. Is when no one is sitting back. Everyone's working hard for a common goal.
Absolutely, man. But yeah, I think with we've been very blessed over the years to have a great environment. Great people, great staff, and it's just an amazing place, and we're very blessed that we still have it, and we're just going to keep growing and expanding.
Yeah, that's great. And tell me about some of the other events that you guys have done there.
We do different types of promos. We have a partnership with Twisted Tea. We have a partnership with Truly. We did a fundraiser for Route 91 there for our friends that we lost, and then friends that were injured at Route 91. We've done 7th or 8th year of doing the toy drive. We've worked with different families, a lot of different cool stuff, man.
Yeah, and talk to me about partnering with content creators for Ruthless Americans.
I got in contact with James through a friend of mine, and James and I got on the phone and had a conversation, and we just hit it off, man. Same mindset, same beliefs. down to earth, cool guy, and started from there, man. One of the things was last year, that was my goal, is as we've been rebuilding and starting everything over, because the shutdown just wiped us out. And so I was like, how can we expand and how can we grow? So my partner and I, Mike, we kept developing and creating, new concepts, new designs, whatever we could. And we said, well, now we got to get it out there. We've built this entire catalog. And James was one of the first people I talked to. He was the one where it just meshed. It worked really well.
Yeah. That's how I found out about you guys, actually, was because I watched James Klug's video when he said, oh, yeah, like this patriotic brand down here in Southern California. I was like, oh, I'm in Southern California.
Yeah,
let me look into this. And I was
Yeah.
surprised, and I was really happy to find it.
Yeah.
And it's been cool making that connection with you.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. And, we've been doing this a long time, man. And we've been doing this before it was cool, man. Country before country was cool type thing,
was country ever cool?
Shots fired.
Absolutely, man. You better believe it. Watch your mouth over there.
Right.
You want to have a conversation.
Right.
I'm trying to keep the peace over here. It's like, I've been doing this a long time. I believe that we've really kind of come to a place where we understand our journey now. We understand where we're going with it and what we're trying to do. And that is build the best brand possible while putting a good message out there and paying homage to our country, to every hardworking American that is busting their ass every day.
Well, you guys are doing a good job with that.
Thank you, brother.
So what's coming up next with partnering with more content creators and trying to get the brand awareness out there?
Number one, first podcast with you. And then we got a couple other things we've got lined up that we're working on as well. And I've got a good friend of mine who has a podcast as well, who is called Dad Up Podcast. Brian Ward, he's a great guy. Talking about, Christian faith, family, being a parent, being a dad. We will be working this year with James again, and then hoping to expand on that. My goal is hopefully make it out to like America Fest next year in Arizona at the end of the year, doing more public speaking, talking about life journey and what it takes to build your own brand, what it takes to be a man in this country anymore, or be a man every day, what you got to do.
Yeah. That's awesome. So talk to me about the social media censorship and the shutdown. That's pretty gnarly. What happened?
So I will tell you this, man. I've talked about it with people before, and sometimes they're like, no, there's no way. I was like, no, we really got shut down. We had our social media, and I want to say it's been 3 years now. And that was right around the time we really started getting information on child trafficking. And I mean, real information. And I had a couple friends, and they worked for different places, and they were like, hey, man, this is what's going on, And I said, what are you talking about? And they started sending me information. And so we started looking into it, and I said, okay, well, what can I do with this? That's one of the things about God, man, is he'll send you little things here and there. And he's like, hey, man, I need you to look at this. As long as you're open to it, as long as you're not closed off. And, I knew some other people that were starting to do some raising awareness for child trafficking. And so I started talking to them and kind of getting information on it. And that's how we ended up creating the Save Our Children's collection. So I reached out to OUR at the time, and I said, hey, out of respect for you guys, like I found you guys, kind of vetted a few different places. And I'd like to kind of talk about this a little bit. And we were just trying to get information out there for people to find, and started creating the Save Our Children's collection. And we also were putting out as much information as we could as far as statistics and what was going on. And
yeah, but the people in charge, they don't want you to know about that.
No, man. And on top of that, we were going through a very interesting time in this country where it was like bad to love your country, And of course, here I am with a brand called Ruthless Americans with red, white, and blue all over everything. So as we're putting stuff out there, I wake up one day, it's no joke, man. I wake up and I go to open my social media, and I'll never forget, it was like, this account is no longer valid. Not like, hey, you've been suspended. Hey, you've got to do this, this, and this. No, they wiped out my personal account, my business account, mind you, organic following of, I think it was something like 14,000 followers, organic, like that I've built over the years. My personal social media and my business social media. Gone in 30 seconds. I call Mike up and I'm like, dude, what the hell, man? And so I can't even tell you what it took to get back online, dude. They wiped us out. Everything that I did, everything was gone in 30 seconds. Could not get back on the apps, could not get back on anything. The other president was in office and he was talking about being shut down, and people were like, oh, that's ridiculous. No, it was really happening.
If they can do it to him, they can do it to any of us.
Right. And it wasn't just us, man. It was guys that I knew who at the time owned gun stores or sold certain products or whatever. They were getting shut down. Now, obviously, we've seen over the last couple of years that was in fact the case. You know, with these guys talking about certain websites and certain social medias where they were blocking a lot of people's content, you know. And again, we don't need to go into politics because in my belief, it's what's best for the country. And we as Americans have to do our best every day to keep building our communities. Can't depend on one guy sitting in the White House. You and I got to talk and we got to say, hey, man, what can we do to better our community? You know, because at the end of the day, yeah, technically they're running the country, but you and I are running our lives.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So sure, it's going to make a difference as far as like cost of goods and how much we're paying for groceries and how much we're paying for gas and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we've got to be able to say, okay, what can we do today that's going to be better for not only our families, but other families and other people that we care about? Yeah, it was wild, man. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get back on. And then finally, we eventually were able to. And, you know, from there, we just started rebuilding, man.
Yeah, that's super tough, man.
But I will tell you this, a great thing that came out of that was a learning curve lesson, you know, where you go, okay, thought I was doing things and I thought I was going somewhere. And then I look back and I go, oh, maybe that was meant to happen because I really thought I was here, but in reality, I was here. I wasn't quite building what I was meant to build, you know? And so it made me step back and start creating again and start going, okay, well, you're going to shut me down? Cool. I'm going to build 10 times better. You know, it's kind of that you get knocked down, get back up type thing, you know, where I was like, all right, I got you. That's fine. You want to shut me down here? I'm going to build here. You know? Yeah.
But no issue since, now that you've been back on Instagram and Facebook?
Let's hope not. I mean, hopefully as I go into 2024 and run my mouth a little bit more, then hopefully I don't, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'll do my best to watch my P's and Q's here and there. I mean, I'm still going to say what I believe in. But yeah, I think 2024, man, you're going to see a lot of eye-opening stuff in this world. Just the awareness, you know, going back to the Save Our Children stuff, just the Sound of Freedom coming out and like the things they talk about what happens to these kids and where they go and how they're trafficked and the things that are done to them. And for me, the amazing thing about that is people's eyes being open to it, you know, and that awareness being raised even more.
Yeah. That's crazy that they tried to really cancel Sound of Freedom and, you know, and they don't even want that message out there. And then they try to politicize it. They try to make it a conspiracy and they don't want attention being drawn to the southern border and just all this mess and craziness.
Yeah, man. The amount of money that's made from it is absurd.
Yeah, I bet. All right. So coming towards the end of this conversation, I wanted to ask you some of your biggest victories.
Oh, man. Biggest victories. Constantly overcoming difficulties in life, I think, would be one of them. The more we deal with, the stronger we get, the smarter we get. I think for me, some of the great victories I've had is one, building this brand and building it with a meaning. There's a purpose behind it. And I think that's something I'm very proud of. I'm proud of what I put out there every day. I'm proud of the guys that I get to work with. I'm very much a proud father. I love the industries I'm in. I love what I do for a living. I love growing, I love creating, I love building. You know, I think a great victory for me, man, is just getting up every day, doing what I do. And my goal is just to put good things out there as much as I can and hopefully make not only a great life for myself, my families, but for others, you know, and hopefully purpose-driven messages that are going to help others.
That's good, man. And so what's most important to you at this stage in your life now that you're 45 and we're in 2024?
Yeah, man. For me, the most important things is being on this journey, being the best dad that I can be, building things that mean something. You know, at the end of the day, man, you got to think of it this way. When we all die, we take nothing with us, right? The only thing you leave behind is your legacy. And you've got to think about that. When everything's done, what are they going to say about you? It's not going to matter to me. But at the end of the day, did I lead a good life that was a good example for others? Did I give back when I could? Did I do good things, not only for my kids, but for others? Because I know a lot of miserable rich people. I ain't got a lot of money. I got enough to pay the bills. But at the end of the day, I know that I'm blessed and I'm happy. I've got my faith. I've got my children. I've got good people around me. And my whole thing is build the greatest legacy I can, because you can't take anything with you.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else you want to add, or we can wrap this up?
I appreciate you having me on. I hope I gave you some good information there. I think just have people check out the website. I hope this gives everybody a little bit of insight. That's another thing too, man, is just to be clear, we come from all different aspects of life, where some people may look at the brand and go, oh, Ruthless Americans, it's patriot, right wing. Please don't put us in that category. Okay. Really take the time to look at our designs, our concepts. American pride stands for being a proud American. I don't care where you come from. Just be a good, hardworking American. Respect others, give to others. Hopefully it's a good example for you. Check out the site. Check out what we stand for. Anybody that's against fighting human trafficking, you've got an issue. If you got an issue with us standing up for something like that, well, we're not friends. We don't need to be friends. So I will say this, man, I know your faith is pretty strong as well, putting the word of God out there somehow, some way, whichever way that may be. I think that's important too. My way of doing it is putting that on a shirt and saying, hey, man,
through the art.
Through the art, man. Yeah. I think one of the coolest things is it happens all the time where I'll be wearing one of my shirts and someone will walk up and they're like, hey, man, I really like that shirt. Oh, thank you, man. Please check out my site. Or they go, hey, man, I really like that shirt. Because people don't always know how to react. Some people are still very cautious of putting themselves out there. They have their faith or they have their beliefs, but they're afraid to put their beliefs out there. And hopefully we're showing you like, hey, you don't have to be afraid of that. This is what we stand for.
Be proud of it.
Be proud of it, man.
And where can people follow you?
We're just developing the TikTok right now, but Instagram is probably our strongest point right now, which is Johnny Ruthless 1440 and Ruthless Americans, Montana's Country Nightclub. Facebook, same thing. And then hopefully in the next couple of months, man, we'll get the YouTube rolling. And then, we'll have to do some work on X as well, because I know a lot of content creators are going there. That seems to be the big push right now, man.
Yeah, because it's more free than anywhere else.
Yeah. So. I mean, have you noticed that with Elon taking over? And yeah, dude, it's wild.
Well, and that's why there's less cancellation now, because the more people get canceled, the more they'll go over to X, which is a competitor platform. So now there's actually competition in the marketplace again.
Right.
Whereas before, when Twitter was controlled by previous people, it was just like, once you got kicked off these platforms, there was no alternatives.
Yeah, man.
Now that there's alternatives, there's competition again.
Absolutely.
So it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But yeah, thank you for your time, Johnny.
Yeah,
it was great having you on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out Ruthless Americans. Links in the description. Support the great work they're doing. And if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, leave a rating/review. 5 stars is a power play. Stay up to date by following me on social medias at Spencer Whiteout. And as always, stay tuned, stay hyped. That's a wrap.
And that's it.